Dear students, today we shall discuss Shakespeare's comedies and special features of comedies. In my last class, I had discussed with you about Shakespeare's comedy. As you know, Shakespeare's comedy is different from the comedy of Ben Jonson. Both were writers of comedies, but there is, there is a lot of difference between these two. I had discussed with you uh, in my last class that most of the comedies written by Shakespeare was were uh, romantic comedies, whereas comedies written by Ben Jonson uh, were classical in nature. What is the difference between the two? We have already discussed. Today we shall start from there. Uh, what are different special features of romantic comedies written by William Shakespeare? Most of the comedies of Shakespeare were related with the world of romance. In other words, we can say that we find romantic world in the comedies of Shakespeare. Whether it be the matter of setting or the matter of characterization or the characters. All these things were imaginative in nature. We find imaginative setup or scenes in the comedies of William Shakespeare. We find imaginative characters also in the comedies of Shakespeare. But the question arises, are these imaginative settings or imaginative characters away from the realities of world? The answer is no. We find the mixture of reality with imagination. Despite the fact William Shakespeare created imaginary world in his comedies, but it is not away from the realities of modern world. As we know, Matthew Arnold, in his study of poetry, has described about the nature of literature or the nature of poetry. It is ultimately related with the matter of criticism of life. The purpose of Shakespeare is not to make us acquainted with the world of imagination only, but he was also very serious about the contrast between the two worlds, the world of imagination and the world of reality in which he lived in The world of imagination is ideal in nature or in vision, which is always desired and aspired, but the world of reality is something which is more cruel and not perfect in nature. In order to get that perfection, it is quite essential and relevant to make contrast between the worlds of imagination and the world of reality. So this is what it can be said that uh, whatever romantic world was created by Shakespeare in his comedies was not altogether unrealistic. It is more realistic. Shakespeare's comedies are also known for the theme of love. In most of his comedies, we find the theme of love, but the concept or the theory of love, which we find in the comedies of Shakespeare, is totally different from the theory of love as advanced by other writers of that age. The love which was highlighted or given more prominence in the comedies of Shakespeare is totally pious, natural, and free from the stigma, or you can say the slur of sex or morality, you can say. Another important feature of Shakespeare's comedies is depiction of women characters. Shakespeare was also a writer of great tragedies. He was also a writer of historical plays. In most of his historical plays or the tragedies, we find the subordinate role of women. But in Shakespeare's comedies, we find the difference. The difference is that women are given more importance and prominent role in comedies. It can also be said that male characters are subordinate to the female characters. We can see it in many different comedies of Shakespeare where we find that women characters are still alive, they are deathless, whereas women characters which were depicted by Restoration comedians, comedy writers, or the Victorian novelists, most of the female characters were dated, but female characters or the women characters depicted by Shakespeare are deathless. And last, humor is also one of the important features of Shakespeare's plays, comedies. The purpose of humor in the comedies of Shakespeare is lighter, is full of delights, whereas we find humor in the plays of or in the classical comedies of Ben Jonson. It is totally different from that of Shakespeare's or from those of Shakespeare's comedies. Humor, Ben Jonson, as we have discussed in my in our earlier classes, that Ben Jonson and William Shakespeare both were contemporary to each other, but Ben Jonson was classical comedy writer, whereas Shakespeare was a romantic comedy writer. The purpose of humor in classical comedies is something which is more mechanical, more didactic, more moralistic, whereas in Shakespeare's plays we find that the humor is full of delights, it is lighter in vein, and it is more common and easily acceptable by the common masses of the time. So today we have discussed important features or characteristics of Shakespeare's comedies. That is all for the day. In my next class, we shall start with a new topic. That's all. Thank you very much.